Hello everyone. So we want to provide solution to this majority challenge. This function, that's a majority, should be a function. It should return a Boolean value, and majority should return true if the majority of items in the array pass the test specified in the callback. Majority should also return false if the number of passes and fails are equals. So in order to solve this problem, this particular challenge, we are gonna go through the pseudocode first before writing the actual code. So in order to start here, I'm gonna start with the parameters for this particular function. So our parameters will be an array and a function as a callback function. And the output for this particular function will be a boolean value. Also, we are gonna create a function that accepts an array and a callback function. Inside this function, we're gonna declare counters variables to track the true and the false results from the callback. So we're gonna declare counter variable, to track the true and false results from the callback function. We are also gonna iterate through each element. We're gonna iterate through each element in the array. And then for each element, we're gonna invoke the callback function on each element. We are also gonna increase the counters value based on the callbacks returns value. And we're gonna check if either counter surpasses half the array length. So in here we are checking or verifying if either the counters, either the true or the false value surpasses half the array length. So if so, the majority is established. And we can loop out of the loop. Then if the counters variables are equal, we can just return false as specified by the challenge. Yeah, so with this we are done with our pseudocode, and we can proceed with writing with the code itself. So under this, I'm just gonna create a function. I'll label it majority, and then this function is gonna accept an array as a parameter and a callback function as well. I'm just gonna name it callback, and then I'm gonna declare a variable named trueCount, and I'm gonna assign it to 0. I will also declare another variable named falseCount, and I'm gonna assign that also to 0. Just gonna move these comments on top of each line of the code. So I'm gonna iterate through each element in the array. That's the next steps. So I'm gonna use a for let let items of array, and for each of the item I'm gonna invoke the callback on each of the item. And since we know the callback will return a Boolean value, I'm gonna also check for the truth value or the false value based on the return of the callback. So if this is true, that means if the callback return a true value, I'm gonna increase the trueCount variable. I'm just gonna add plus plus, that's an increment syntax. Then if not, that means if the callback returns a false value, I'm gonna increase the false count instead. And while we are still in our loop, we will also check so we also want to check if either counter surpasses half the array length. So that means if the value in our count, in one of the counts is, let's say 3, and the total length of the array is 4, we already know the majority. So by then we don't need to finish looping, we can just break out of the loop. So, and how do we do that? We can just check if our true count is greater than the array length. Then we can just return true and break out of the loop. and also check if the first count is greater than the array length. And return false and just break out of the loop. But if none of this is true, we can return false if the two counters variables are equal. So with this, I think we've reached the end of this challenge. I'm just gonna add some indentation and then run the code to see, and with this our code passes. Thank you.